Welcome back, and thank you for joining us today for another Virtual Investor KOL Connect segment. My name is Janine Thomas. I am CEO of JTCIR, and I will be the moderator. I am very pleased to be joined by Dr. Charles Lapp. He is Ames Consulting Medical Officer, and Dr. Lapp is also the founder of the Hunter-Hopkins Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a key opinion leader who has been treating chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia for over 25 years. Dr. Lapp, it's a pleasure to have you with us for this KOL Connect segment.
Thank you, Janine. I'm happy to be here.
Of course, and before we get started, I just want to remind our audience that AIM is publicly listed on the NYSE American and trades under the ticker AIM. And during today's discussion, the company will be making forward-looking statements, and I encourage everyone to view the company's latest SEC filings on their website at aimimmuno.com for the latest information. So, Dr. Lapp, we are going to dive right in. If you could tell me briefly about your recent studies using Ampligen to treat people with long COVID.
Well, based on a small pilot study of 4 patients with long COVID who improved significantly with Ampligen therapy, we embarked recently on a larger, multi-center, randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled study in patients with long COVID. There were 80 patients who were enrolled in the study and treated, and of these, 36 patients in the treatment portion and 30 patients in the placebo portion completed the treatment. There were 4 different sites that participated in that study. The primary endpoint of the study was to measure improvement in fatigue after 12 weeks of Ampligen therapy. We employed the PROMIS Fatigue Score, which is a short, simplistic questionnaire about fatiguing symptoms. The secondary endpoints were the fatigue level at 6 weeks of therapy, the distance walked in 6 minutes at both the 6 and 13-week points, as well as measures of cognition and sleep. And we also explored numerous protein markers.
Dr. Lapp, what did you find?
Well, over the period from baseline to 13 weeks, fatigue improved for both the treated and the placebo subjects, with a trend toward more improvement in the treated patients. Unfortunately, it was not significant, however. Physical ability was measured using the 6-minute walk test at baseline, 6 weeks, and 13 weeks. In that test, the number of meters walked in 6 minutes is a measure of the subject's physical ability. So at 13 weeks, the treated subjects were able to walk about 24 meters further than the placebo subjects on average. But again, this was not statistically significant. We then decided to segregate more severe subjects from the moderately ill subjects based on the number of meters walked at baseline. It's generally accepted that individuals who can walk less than 205 meters are generally housebound, and therefore they're more severely ill. When we examined the 6-minute walk test in persons who were initially able to walk less than 205 meters, compared to the less severe subjects, there was a 44-meter difference, and that was statistically significant at a p-level of 0.03. We also noticed that fatigue improved best in persons who had been ill less than 2 years, compared to those with a longer duration of illness. At 6 weeks, there was an improvement in the patient's ability to sleep better, which was determined by the sleep disturbance questionnaire. At 13 weeks, treated patients showed an improvement over placebo, but it was not statistically significant. Exploratory serum protein marker analysis showed the differential protein expression between healthy control and disease patients in a variety of gene pathways. Proteomic analysis also showed that Ampligen restored proteins related to hemoglobin processing, coagulation, and immune maturation. The proteomic studies, however, are still under review, and we should probably discuss those at another time when we've had the time to fully digest it and evaluate their prognostic abilities. But the science is very interesting so far. We'll be looking forward to that.
So fatigue improved best in patients who were ill less than 2 years, and the ability to walk for 6 minutes was most improved in the more severely affected patients. Measures of the cognition and sleep were apparently unchanged over the 13-week period. Why were there such mixed results?
Well, there are a number of explanations for those results. First, fatigue, cognition, and sleep are pretty much subjective symptoms, and they're very difficult to measure. The more objective test, the 6-minute walk test, demonstrated the most reliable and disparate results. Secondly, humans are notoriously inconsistent on subjective testing. We measured some levels like fatigue on 2 or 3 questionnaires and got different responses on each one. So that's why it's important to have more objective testing. Thirdly, criteria to be included in the study were pretty broad, and in retrospect, some subjects were not very ill. It makes common sense that the sicker patients have more room to improve than a patient who is only mildly affected. Future inclusion criteria should probably sort out the most ill subjects for treatment. Lastly, it's possible that the treatment period of 12 weeks was a bit too short to see meaningful improvement in some of the symptoms.
Dr. Lapp, you've stated that you would like to see a larger study of Ampligen therapy in people with long COVID. What would that study look like?
I would. I'd love to see a study with many more participants, first of all, and the subject should be more severely ill and have a short duration of illness. We're considering a study with longer treatment length as well, perhaps 24 to 40 weeks of Ampligen therapy. Evaluation would need to be more frequent, perhaps every 3 weeks, in order to define more of a trend. And most importantly, evaluation should be more objective. This might involve doing a 6-minute walk test again, or going to cardiopulmonary exercise testing or activity monitoring, perhaps a provocation study with hand grip testing. Sleep monitoring would be helpful. And fatigue and cognition should be measured with broader, more specific, and less superficial surveys.
So do you have anything to add?
Yes, I do. I'm confident that if we have a large, well-designed study, it would be beneficial to persons with long COVID, and I hope that we can identify a source of funding for such a study.
Okay, so with that, this concludes ImmunoTech KOL Connect segment. I'd like to thank Dr. Lapp for joining us today, and also like to thank our viewers for your time and attention. And if you like what you saw today, I encourage you to visit the company's website at aimimmuno.com to sign up for their email alerts and to stay current on the latest information. You can also follow the company on X, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And for more information on Virtual Investor, visit virtualinvestorco.com for the latest events and calendar. Thank you all and wish you a great rest of your day.
Thanks very much for giving me this opportunity.